Let's talk about psychology. Psychology came from Greek words psyche and logia, which means the study of the soul. However, psychology is more than that. In fact, the definition of psychology has undergone a lot of revision throughout the history. Today, psychology defined as a science of behavior and mental processes, but it is not about reading the mind of others, rather it aims to ponder the question in our life. Like, are we truly free or not? What is conscious? What is more important, nurture with nature? What motivates people, and so on. In conclusion, Wilhem Wundt believed that psychology is the science of conscious experience and that trained observers could accurately describe thoughts, feelings, and emotions.
Wilhem Maximilian Wundt, born on August 16, 1832 and he died August 31, 1920. He was a German psychologist, philosopher, and a professor, known as one of the father of modern psychology. Wundt, who distinguished psychology as a science from philosophy and biology, was the first person even to call himself a psychologist. He is widely regarded as a father of experimental psychology. In 1879, at the University of Leipzig, Wundt founded the first formal laboratory for psychological research. This marked psychology as an independent field of study. By creating this laboratory, he was able to establish psychology as a separate science from other disciplines. He also formed the first academic journal by psychological research, Philosophy Study, from 1881 to 1902, set up to publish the Institute Research.
What is cognitive psychology? Study of internal mental process that go inside your brain, including the perception, thinking, memory, attention, language, and learning. Ulrich Dick Neisser, father of cognitive psychology and advocate for ecological process or approach to cognitive research. Three main approaches in cognitive psychology: experimental, computational, and neural psychology. What is forensic psychology? Study of clinical and legal situation refers to the study of the relationship between human psychology and the criminal justice system. Hugo Mansterberg, father of forensic psychology, three main types of forensic psychology: police, correctional, and legal psychology.
Social psychology. Social psychology uses scientific methods to understand and explain how the thoughts, feelings, and behavior of individuals are influenced by the actual, imagined, or implied presence of other human beings. Kurt Lewin. Kurt Lewin is the father of modern social psychology. Social psychology focuses on three main areas: social thinking, social influence, and social behavior. Developmental psychology. Developmental psychologists study human growth and development over the lifespan, including physical, cognitive, social, intellectual, perceptual, personality, and emotional growth. Jean Piaget. Jean Piaget is the father of developmental psychology. There are four main types in developmental psychology: psychosocial developmental theory, cognitive developmental theory, attachment theory, and socio-cultural development theory.
Wundt contribution. Wilhelm Wundt was a German psychologist who established the first psychology laboratory in Germany. Wilhelm Wundt's greatest contribution to psychology was to show that psychology could be a valid experimental science. Therefore, one way he contributed to the development of psychology was to do his research in carefully controlled conditions, and one of the examples is experimental method. Wilhelm Wundt wanted to study the structure of the human mind using introspection. He trained psychology students to make observations that were based by personal imputation or previous experience and used the result to develop a theory of conscious thought. He also contributed to psychology, the first setup of psychological laboratory and trained subjects in introspection. He hoped to examine cognitive structures. He eventually described his theory of structuralism. Wilhelm Wundt's approach became known as structuralism because he used experimental methods to find the basic building blocks, structure of thought, and investigate how they interacted. At first, he did this by studying reaction time, systematically changing the stimuli. He presented to participants the measuring how long it took them to respond, inferring that the longer it took to respond, the more the mental processes must be involved. Later, he adapted and developed a process called introspection to infer more about the nature of process involved. That's all. One of the contributions of Wilhelm Wundt was he wrote the first textbook of psychology. The second one is he set up the first laboratory of experimental psychology. The third one is he used the scientific method to study the structure of sensation and perception. And lastly, he showed that introspection could be used to study mental states in replicable laboratory experiments.
Wilhelm Wundt, Impact on Psychology. Wilhelm Wundt opened the Institute of Experimental Psychology at the University of Leipzig in Germany in 1879. This was the first laboratory dedicated to psychology. When he opened it, it was the beginning of modern psychology. Wilhelm Wundt will forever be known as the father of experimental science. His institute helped graduate students learn experimental science, structuralism, and voluntarism. Wundt, while working his institute, developed his method of introspection. Wundt was the first people to believe that consciousness could be studied through experimentation, and that consciousness and other mental phenomena should be the object of the study in psychology. He created a course called Physiological Psychology, which was based around the difference between physiology and psychology. He later published his lecture notes in 1873 and 1874, becoming his major work. The Principles of Physiological Psychology, Wundtian Psychology, What is Psychologist Linguistic, takes up the first two books of Volker's psychology.